Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for Perseverance, Castaway Chronicles, Episode 2. If you want to know our thoughts on Episode 1, you can definitely go check out that discussion. Because we'll be solely talking about Episode 2. Mm-hmm. So, what's everyone's thoughts on Episode 2?
I like it. It's better than Episode 1.
I agree. Brett? Better than Episode 1?
No, it's the same. It's
the same?
Totally overwhelming, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, well...
As proven.
No, I don't want to hear that shit. As proven, you did the same thing last time, and then it was like...
I have no idea what worked last time. I have no idea what didn't this time.
Okay.
But that's me, so that's not a problem.
That's me.
That's not a
you
flaw
guys
with the
are
game.
you.
That's not a flaw with the game. That's a flaw with me.
Yeah, so Episode 2, for me, feels like this is the game that they designed.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, there's a lot here, and so let's do Episode 1
as an easy intro.
as a light tutorial. It's just a fun jaunt into a heavy Mind Clash game. No, not saying Episode 1 is any less complex, but Episode 2 is definitely more complex than Episode 1. However, if you've played Episode 1, then it makes Episode 2 a smoother entry.
I would agree.
Right.
Because the core fundamentals of the game are still the same in both episodes. It's just a different way of going about it in Episode 2. And I really gotta commend them for doing that, because Episode 1 and 2 still feel radically different from one another.
Yeah.
But yet, the core is the same, with
Right.
the dice placement and really the same 4 locations.
Right. That do basically the same
Basically
thing.
the same. There's like 2 locations that are like hard differences.
Right.
Like sustenance with the adventure in this one, and then build.
But the build before was you still were putting out walls.
You were putting
with
on walls
it
and traps, however, but this one was, I mean, it's still completely
goals are very
different. Right.
Yeah.
You were still building, yeah, but like, the adventure is the one that's really just totally
radically different.
Radically different.
Yep.
But yeah, the building is just like, okay, well now we're actually going out and exploring. We're putting out these settlements that are these badass, really powerful locations at the cost of potentially having someone being able to defend. Or it's like, maybe I'll do it from my spot, and then maybe I'll get the benefit for defeating it.
Right.
I will say, because I don't think any of us did it in Episode 1, but I had 2 sole goals for playing this. One, I captured, but that was more of a byproduct of just like, it happens to be there. I wanted to see how heavy camps were.
Yep.
By going all in on camps. And then my second thing was to never upgrade dice. I wanted to see if you can do well by never because I was like, well, maybe there's a meta. Maybe you have to modify your dice. And no, you actually do not. Is it super beneficial to do so? Absolutely.
Well, speaking as the one with the most dice and the fewest followers,
fewest followers,
it may not be a core benefit.
Because your score is what, 120 and change.
Mm-hmm. But I also want every single one of the.
And I get that. What I'm more saying is the fact, like, to use a die only costs 2 points out of that. In the grand scheme of things, the chances that you're going to lose 10 points in the entire game from being forced from other people's dice are still unlikely.
Yeah, it's more for me the die placement. It's not so much of getting the victory points or the followers, which are the victory points. It's more about the control, which then in turn give you more votes,
right?
And then you win the assembly, because in both games it kind of comes down to assembly scoring. We saw it last time we played. Brett won all 3 and won the game. This time I won all 3 and won the game. That could just be complete coincidence.
I don't think so.
It's a 50. What was it? 50-point swing.
No, it's more
21.
First to last.
Oh yeah, it's 52.
52 points.
Yeah.
So.
That doesn't count second place on any of those. So
but we're just saying,
if you win all of them, you get 52 points.
Yeah.
Right, but that statement all by itself discounts the second place.
But the second place you're getting is 15-21.
About a third.
Yeah.
About a third in
It's
each
a
case.
half, yeah.
15,
Half to a third,
21.
yeah.
Yeah, literally half.
Yeah.
No, not literally. I'm stupid.
Less than half.
It's a little less than half.
Yeah.
But I agree. So the two things that to me are why I think this one's better compared to the other one is you have permanent votes now.
Yes.
So actually the assembly phase of someone wins the first assembly phase almost means nothing for the second assembly phase.
Right.
This one, winning the first one probably meant you either probably got at least 2 permanent votes, which means for the rest of the game you're at least 2 votes ahead of everyone else. The other thing is the ability to move your leader, because now I can place my leader in the very first turn to get a double action, which means the most important time is when to do it, and not be afraid that he's now just locked up and I can't do anything
Right.
with them.
And yeah, I love the fact. I mean, this episode 2, at least for me, doesn't disparage anything from episode 1. It doesn't make me dislike episode 1 any less.
Nope.
Because the lockup of your leader is a core mechanic of that.
Right.
It makes him so essential.
Right.
And in this one, he's equally as essential, but in a different way.
Right.
Because in episode 2, resources are very tight.
Right.
You spend a lot of your time, at least for me,
Gathering resources.
because I was like, I used all of it, then I was like, shit.
Right.
Okay, how do I start getting resources? Well, if you can get some glowberries, then you can move your leader around as your secondary action to get your
Right.
resources and use your primary for something else.
Right.
But with that, with the ability to move your leader around, like, whenever I was gaining all that valor at the beginning of the game, it wasn't even in my head of being like, oh, I can do a double action and spend and get 6 total votes
Right.
out of that. And that happened in, the second phase? So
Yeah.
it was going to be for the second assembly phase, which is, what's the point difference? 5 extra points? No.
It's 14 to 17.
Oh, so 3 extra points.
Yeah.
But I had happened to win the first one, so it was
Right.
like, oh, okay, so this is just great. Now I've locked up the second assembly,
Right.
essentially. But then you also have what we found that none of us have. I mean, we utilized it a lot more in here. And I'm curious of what your guys' thoughts were about the outpost locations, because I think that they break the game in a good way. Like, there's locations where it's like, because instead of spending story to place influence, which my goal for the chief steward up there, I was just going to tie it because I had the one story and I was just going to pop one down and go, okay, we'll both get 2. But then this proving grounds happened to come out.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, I'm not going to use these soldiers anymore, so let me just do it and just take control, because no one's fighting me for chief engineer and no one's fighting me for chief security, so I definitely don't have 3 soldiers anymore, and I didn't really go perk heavy.
Right.
So that was the only one. I mean, I think I probably actually would have gotten... No, I would have gotten half, because I wasn't going to be able to beat you out on chief mate.
Right.
But then you have stuff like Underground Passage, where if that's out, then that's a vie for control, because now this is no longer locked up.
Right.
Fighting for votes, if you have Valor, is no longer a set thing. Oh, haha, we took it. It's like, no, I think I'll actually just swap it out. Oh,
Right.
and I have the perk that gives me an extra vote if I place my own, so I'll just swap my die with yours and change the face.
Right.
So what are your guys' thoughts on the outposts?
Love them.
Love them?
Yep. Absolutely.
I forgot about them as I did the first game. It's something
That would
out
be
there that
yeah.
it actually is in the last round on the previous time we just played for fun that I realized, oh, there's a spot there and I can put it there, get a bunch of resources, and have no consequences because I haven't built anything there.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And that's what I kind of forgot.
and I
Like,
completely forgot about it this time.
a little bit was like, oh, Seth owns that. That's fine, because maybe I give him a few points, but realistically, I'm getting all the resources I want with no real consequences to myself. And if you can't beat it, I have soldiers. I can counterattack, kill those dinosaurs, 4 points, and the bonus for it.
That's true.
And I was like, it's not a bad plan. Now, we were both kind of went to, like, defensive heavy, and so we were both like,
Well, because I was putting camps out,
Right.
I was like, well, I'm going to be getting attacked a lot, so
Right.
I need to have some semblance of defense.
Right. And I thought I was going to do more adventures and more attacks. That's why I kind of went chief mate to begin with. Because my plan was to try to go for adventures and try to put as many cubes out, like get as many perks as I possibly could.
Yeah.
I did 50% of that plan.
Right. Yeah, you did what? One adventure?
2 adventures.
2 adventures. I only did 3. I didn't do as many as I thought I was.
Right, because I kind of figured out that it was more efficient to do perks by actually just building settlements. So pretty much, I always built 2 settlements every time I went to a settlement spot, and built 2 settlements every time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was also going to try and go no settlements. Like I was literally this was my game. It was just solely that. But then there was a time where I was like, you know what? If I go there, like that's going to get me my influence that I want, because I was going to finish out my Trial of Momentum, which gave me a point for each influence. So I was trying to get as much influence out as possible.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, okay. And that gave me probably 12. I think I got 8 points. Yeah, I got 8 points and then 5. So I got 13 points off of the Temple adventure. Which, funny enough, because I had this last time we played, and I never built camp, so I never did it. And this time I was like, oh, hey, perfect. I'm going camp strategy anyway. Let's try and go that route.
So, you were talking about, do you need to flip the dice? And I would say it kind of depends on your strategy. So, to me, there's a couple spots. So, like Chief Steward, where you need a die, plus every 2 settlements worth 3 points. Mm-hmm. So, getting 1 extra die out there, you still need to get 4 settlements, which means you need to do the settlement spot twice at least. But that's 6 points. That's pretty solid. The other thing to me is getting the story. It's pretty efficient. If you have 2 dice, that's 3 story that you're getting over there, which is pretty solid.
That's true. If you went soldier heavy and got your outposts, I mean, it'd be max. You would need 9 soldiers and all your outposts, but that's 12 points.
Which I did last game. That's what I did. I got all 3 of mine out.
I took it from you.
You took it in the very end, too.
Yeah, turn order is huge in this game because it's kind of like I was waiting to see what die you were placing, if it was going to cost me on votes, and then I'm like, okay, he didn't do it, so now I'm going to steal that spot.
Right.
Because in both episode 1 and 2, it is kind of annoying. These dials, besides the fact that they're super loose, you have no idea where anyone's at.
Right.
It's more of just, surprise at the end of the game. You could just constantly ask, but I think that's annoying.
Right.
To be like, all right, everyone. I mean, we kind of do it for the votes. To be like, hey, where's everyone at for votes?
Yep.
And then realistically helping each other math it out, where it's like, okay, I'm at 12, and it's like, I can't beat that. It's like, okay, well.
But votes are at least a little easier because it's a raised coin. Mm-hmm. I guess the only question is, are you on the 10 side or the 1 side? Which, if I see you're at 7 permanent, you're probably on the 10 side.
On the 10 side, right. Yeah. But then it's like, okay, everyone, what's everyone's point score? Which you could, once again, do every assembly phase.
Right.
But I kind of always like I always like counting victory points at the end and being like, oh, surprise!
Yeah.
That's my personal way of scoring. Some people like the track, but then also it could be discouraging if you have, Seth, what are you at, 100? Fuck, okay, well, the game's over. People could just be, I'm at 50. All right, I'm not catching up. And then they just kind of throw the rest of the game.
I did not. I knew I was going to lose, and I knew I was going to lose badly the whole time.
So
I still did everything I could.
The whole game.
And I am damn proud of losing horribly. Half your score is impressive.
But I want to say, I think in both 1 and 2, I think you are right. Winning the assembly points pretty much is who wins the game.
If you can sweep it, if you can sweep the assembly,
I think if you can only get 2, number 2 and number 3, I think you are fine.
Yeah.
And this might be easier to stack with the permanent.
Right.
Marker. Well, that's what I'm thinking is because of the permanent victory points, the assembly phase should be a lot more competitive.
Right.
Because there's no way.
It heats up the whole game. Because now you're tracking for, not only is it this time, but next time I'm still behind you.
Yeah. So then it's like, turn order becomes that much more important because it's like, oh, thank God. Because whenever I was going first, I was like, oh, perfect, I can go there. No, I can't because I don't have any resources. So, all right. Oh, wait, I have 4 Valor.
So another thing I remember, one of your comments for 1 was you couldn't see a meta, you enjoyed the puzzle, and you wanted to keep exploring the puzzle. Mm-hmm. I will say that's how I feel for number 2. Like, I'm almost to the point, it's like, I want to go again.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do any strategy I've done so far, and I want to play a different way again.
Yeah.
Because I think I see another way to play this that might win me the game.
Yeah. And you know what? For episode 2, I think that strategy or that different way to play is further expanded by
Yes.
these perks.
It's exclusively, I'm going, like, so now I'm looking, it's like, okay, I'm going to go level 1, 2 for Chief Mate, and I'm just going to go Captain for, like, get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in Captain. So basically do the same thing I'm doing in Captain, and let's try again.
Yeah, well, because what's interesting is last time we played, you were like, oh, you probably should just pick one person, and it's like, you don't have to. I certainly didn't. I actually didn't utilize any of my perks except the training to do my temple, and a few times when placing my one die.
So my main one was, and again, it kind of just happenstance that I was getting points for putting it all in one sector. But yeah, no, because again, like, there's a part of me that says, like, I kind of want to try again the Chief Engineer like I did last time, but I also think, like, doing a leader heavy, where you're doing 4 in leader and maybe 2 in engineering or 3 in engineering, is the way to go.
Well, what's interesting is because this perk system is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's the sole reason why Episode 2 is better than Episode 1. I'm assuming you and I like Episode 2 better than 1.
That and the fact that the leader becomes another worker and is much more mobile.
Yes, and yeah, you're right. He becomes another worker because you can also send him on adventures, which
Right.
I don't believe he could go on patrols.
Right.
On the last one, so
He defended the wall.
yeah, and yeah, he basically annihilated one section. And yep, this one he can go on adventures. Counts as a heavy soldier. Can't die. He can help kill dinosaurs. And
Takes 2 wounds every
takes
single
2
time.
wounds. Can't die. So your leader is super important, but at the same time, you're like, well, he's locked up there because I don't have glow berries to move him, or I don't necessarily want to move him. So he still kind of plays the same way in Episode 1 because you put him in a spot you want, and you're like, I need him to stay there because I have control. Like, I knew I was always winning this.
Yeah.
Because I just went so heavy into that, but it's like, I'm only going to win out on votes if I can get a second location, and I won the construction spot twice.
Right.
I think the last time we tied, or I lost it. I can't remember, but it's like that's the only way I'm going to be able to do anything here.
Yep.
But this perk tree, it looks, at least I'm curious. Do you think the perks are overwhelming? Because I feel like on first glance they are.
They are until you start playing them.
Right.
Right.
And see how they enhance each other. Mm-hmm. You know, in each section, you know, there's basically 2 or 3 actual perks, and then there's an improvement on that one, and then there's an improvement on a previous one.
Yeah. And the fact that you can't just immediately pick any one you want, you kind of have to be like, okay, well, to get
There's
the
a tech
second
tree.
tier, I have to have a top. Yeah, it's a little bit of a tech tree, but not in like a civilization tech tree where
Right,
you need
yeah.
these 17 things to get this, and then like, and you do that another time, and then you do this. I think it's somewhat manageable.
Yeah.
More so than when we played Episode 1, and we're like, oh, what's Episode 2 like? And we looked at this, and we're like, oh my god, what is
Right.
this?
I will say the one thing I do see with the tech tree is, because there's a lot of things that modify something, just remembering, because there is already a lot of actions that you're doing in a single turn, to remember, like, oh, I also have this perk, which means I get to do, like, I almost forgot, spend a glowberry to put out an extra cube.
This really should factor into that strategy, rather than
That is true.
what I used it as an afterthought.
Right.
Oh, you know what else I can do?
Right, well, because last time we played, you know, Zach and I were like, he went capture and I was going kill, so then it's just like, okay, who's doing that?
Right.
Oh, the chief of security gives me stuff for killing, boom, I'm going to focus that.
Right.
When you play this game more, you do start to see the nuances of, oh,
Yes.
I don't want to go all in on one because I want this, because this is going to help me over here.
Right.
And you were talking about, like, going all in on captain and stuff and doing a little bit things. I even just looked down and saw the chief steward, his level 3 gives you an extra settle, and you could do the same action. So if you had a bunch of, you can actually start
Right.
placing out 3 settlements.
Yes. If you have the resources, you could do 3 cells.
Right.
Yeah.
Which then in turn, I mean, makes the chief
Or with
steward.
the captain, you can do 6.
Or you know, so you get extra
Oh my
politics.
God.
So you get extra politics, so you always go up a vote and you put out a cube somewhere. Or put a die.
Yeah.
And then if you do gather as your first, so you get extra resources. Do politics as your next one, and then do settle as your third one. basically what you're saying is every time I do a gather, I'm getting an extra resource, period. Politics, I'm changing out a die with the extra resource that I got and getting 2 votes. Mm-hmm. And 2 permanent votes and an extra vote.
Yeah.
And then, because I have all those extra resources, because I've modified basically my thing, I only have to go once to...
Politics and once to settle.
Because the settlement, I already put out one at the beginning. That gives me now the 4 I need. I have the 2 dice because I've already modified the 1 dice. Meaning I'm getting 6 points. The chances that I'm going to get a 3rd dice or need a 3rd dice with 2 more settlements, I don't need to.
But that's the thing is, we have we have 12 total settlements.
Right.
Not only if you went that strategy, you could, I think it's all 12, you would get 18 points if you also got 3 dice.
Yeah.
So if you
9 points with 3 dice. Oh, if you modify 3 dice, so you have 4 dice total.
You would have 4 dice total. So then
16
if you had,
points, yeah.
3, 6.
No,
it's 3 points for every 2 out.
It's 12 points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right, 12 points. I was doing 3 times 6.
4.
I was doing 3 and 4. I was like, oh, it's 18. So if you're able to do that, not only are you pretty much locking down every single region,
Right.
And putting influence out, and you're almost guaranteed at least 24 points, because you can probably get that out by assembly 2 and 3.
Because you're putting out, because you have to put all the settlements in different locations. So let's just say you do it twice. You're putting 2 settlements probably in 3 different locations, plus wherever you started, because you're probably going to put that one there too.
Yep.
And 3 or 4 dice are yours, so they're going to help capture those areas.
Yep.
In addition to that, you would either putting out more perks, prepping the perfect perk situation in your book, and then, or putting out and controlling more of those officers to begin with. So you're getting more points somewhere else.
And you're getting resources.
Right.
And since you're controlling officers, because everything in that strategy alone hinders your opponents, because now they're losing 2 followers for using your own dice, or using your dice, and then they're having to put in extra influence to try and beat you in something that they're wanting to go out and do.
Right. So, your first move could be theoretically as do the leader can move to the same spot again, then to put extra cube down on the leader for a glowberry. So now you spend 3 glowberries to keep the leader there and get another cube in a spot while you work on Chief Steward.
Yeah, and you could also pick the one that gives you, whenever you get the
officer,
you get a double.
Yep.
So that's just like one example, and that's like, this one rewards, like if you picked a strat, like, that's a viable strategy.
Right.
Now we haven't tried that, so we don't know if that would actually win you the game compared to any other type. But it sounds solid.
I think going picking perks and Chief of Security and Chief Engineer is going to do the same thing, because you're not going to be able to capture as many dinosaurs normally as you're going to have to kill.
Right.
So you get extra bonuses for killing the ones you don't want, and you capture the ones you want. Mm-hmm. And so if you go down both those paths just kind of simultaneously, you pick and choose, like, okay, I need to kill raptors because I need more valor.
Yeah.
Or I capture the raptor because I need more soldiers for the next attack that I'm planning to do.
That's true.
Or because I'm going to go on an adventure with this attack sequence that I'm trying to run.
Yeah. Yeah, you could theoretically also go the settlement route that we were talking about, and then just pick the training.
Yep.
And then go heavy into getting soldiers, and then also going for the captain.
Right.
Because if you're also capturing a bunch. Because we also, one thing that we, in our last game, we noticed the difference between killing and then capturing.
Yep.
And because the expansion section doesn't have anything. But the
3
gather,
of the sections have...
the training, and then the build, each have an extra release.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, how is that any better than me just getting bonuses for killing? Which, because, well, one, the benefits are different for releasing. But killing is smaller because it's also easier to go out and do. And then you have to go out into the engineer to go out and capture, which is, you can only have one of one type. But if you went in and just solely were like, I'm just going to capture the shield heads, and I can have 9, and what was that if you had all 3?
Like 24
it's
points.
8 for 3, so if
24.
you had 24 points.
Yeah.
So
if
the perk tree, if you go for that.
Yep.
And most likely you're gonna have, I don't know your guys' thoughts, but you're gonna have at least two, kind of, at least for me, it's like kind of have two streams going. You're gonna have one primary strat and then kind of a secondary,
right?
Just for the nature of the game. My primary was camps, and then secondary was adventures.
Right. Where mine was primary, put as many perks out as possible, and then adventures after that.
Right. And then Brett's was settlements and dice. So he was actually going the route that we were. But the hard part of just having settlements is... Because what we didn't do, because last time none of us built settlements, and except for Brett, no one competed for it. We were going for other things,
right.
So it was like,
taught you, didn't I?
You pretty much, because it's like, well, you have to compete for the assembly. It's too big of points to let any one person. Because I think if you didn't get one of those assemblies, I think I was close enough behind that I would have actually won.
Yeah.
Like, even if I didn't get it, if Zach got it, I think I would have had just enough. It was still...
We were a lot more tightly...
Right. So, if there's anything about both of these games, it's not even really a meta. It's just more obvious. Don't let one person get all the points.
Right.
But in episode 2, with the permanent victory or permanent votes...
Right. You should be trying more often to at least get that once per turn, per round.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that means putting a book or putting your leader there, it's probably realistically you need to spend the 2 valor per round to get those permits.
Yeah, and I definitely understand why there's only 2 spots there,
right.
And why they both require certain things. So because resources are so tight and you start out with pretty much just one of everything,
right?
It's like the pub. In the last one, the pub is like, oh, whatever,
right?
Like, who cares? But this one, it's like, huh,
right?
The pub's pretty good, or the Tranquil Meadow, because that gives you 3 story, and it's just like, because I was mathing in my head, okay, because now you also, to influence is a lot harder. You have to spend story just to even place 1, where in the last episode that was your free action. It was a free action. Mm-hmm. And your free action now is adventures.
But it also gives you resources when you do the explore for the adventure.
Yeah, was it 1 valor, 1 story, and 2 or 2 glowberries?
Or 2.
Yeah. So, and at first I was like, man, why are we going to hold on to all these adventures? Oh, it's because they're worth a point at the end.
Right.
Does anyone have any negatives on episode 2? I have 1.
My negative is
Is it the valor?
That was from episode 1.
Yeah.
It carries over. At least in episode 1, you had another board you could flip it to, and did not have to worry about the stupid.
So my negative is probably going to still be kind of from episode 1. Is it's so big, it's so much information. I play complex games, and this is even at a level of like, wow, I really gotta just like go through my entire checklist, go through my entire board. And then that's it.
And even on multiple playthroughs, we still miss something. Where it's
Every
like,
time.
oh, we forgot to put dinosaurs out. Luckily, it was like, well, we're not adventuring, or we're not...
right, it didn't matter as much.
It didn't really matter because we weren't killing or capturing.
Right.
Like, in the last time, it was kind of... It
would matter more.
That we did it.
Yeah.
And every time we were using these locations, we had enough to kill them, so we never had to pull them.
Because you and I were basically the only ones that were ever adventuring, because we're the only ones with buildings out there. And you and I, at that point, were just keeping enough, and it counted for double that. Basically, we started like, we can handle it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Except the few times that maybe not even the few times, I think the one time that I didn't, and it was like, anyway, I'm going to counterattack.
Right.
Because now I have the soldiers, you just can't.
Right.
It's kind of weird. I wish, like, I guess theoretically, because you do the breach right after that, you could counterattack. Oh, but they were on an adventure. I'm like, why didn't I do that immediately? Because they were on an adventure. So whenever they came back, it's like, haha.
Now I can.
But that's also a very interesting aspect. Well, actually, I'll bring that up after negatives. Brett, you have any negatives on the... Besides what actually really Zach's just said about it being... This is easily, at this point, episode 2... Man, it's hard. It's definitely more complex than Tricarion. I'd probably put it up there with Anachrony. Anachrony is probably Mind Clash's still heavier game, and episode 2 is right up there with that, I would say. Mind Clash is kind of the other. They're like the thematic Beetle Lasarda games, so you're getting a complex game when they make one.
Right.
But yeah, episode 2 is definitely let's just do a
Because my other negative is the very fact that, so we're talking about dinosaurs, you have the assembly phase and it never states put dinosaurs on.
It does not.
Or if it does, we've read it multiple times and we are missing it.
Adventure cards offer, outposts offer, assembly scoring tile, and then the vote tracker. No, it does not say. You're supposed to place out it's supposed to be every tile that is adjacent to a clearing.
Yep.
And you just follow the arrow, so then it's like, oh, okay, this one's completely clear, so a trampler comes out. Yeah, it's just very weird that that's not there.
Right.
But Brett, you have any other negatives that are different than with Zach?
Just kidding. The only thing I can think of is I really sincerely feel that you both were waiting on me to take my turn most of the time.
I'm waiting on both of you to take your turns.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm like, oh, well, I don't give a fuck what Brett does because he has no idea. It's never that thought. It's more, I just want my turn to come around. Like, that's just any dice drafting game where I'm just like, I need this because I have 4 things and I just need to retain the order.
Yeah.
And I can't forget because they need to go in this order. Yeah, that's every game though.
Right. In this heavy of a game, even I had analysis paralysis, and I would be like, there's very few games that I ever get analysis paralysis in.
Right.
And this one is so mind crunchy that it's like, okay, but I need to do this and then that. It's like, but I only have 2 more turns and I need 3 turns to do everything.
And there was a time I was looking and I was like, okay, there's 8 dice there.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1, 2, that's me. 1, 2, okay, I already lost count. I don't know how many actions I'm getting. I'll wait till the dice pool's lower.
Right.
So no, we were not waiting on you to take your turn just so Zach and I could really play.
And I kind of figured because, again, there's so much going on that you just take that time to plan and replan and come up with a slightly different plan.
Yeah.
Right, because if you move your leader, that might open up an entire new idea.
Yeah.
It's like, he moved it!
Well, because he moved it, and then you were like, and Seth goes before me, and I'm like, I do! I'm gonna take that spot.
Right.
So I will say it's probably a slow-moving game turn by turn, but it doesn't feel like it playing it
Yeah,
because there's so much to think about while it's not your turn.
You're constantly engaged, and this is one of those where it's not like a solitaire co-op or a solitaire competitive game where it's like, I don't care what you guys are doing because I have my own game.
You care what other people do.
Yeah, because
heavily.
Well, because I didn't even think of that as an option whenever he moved it because I had my other plan, and then when you did move it, okay, well that just opens something up. And like once again, I never planned on placing settlements.
Right.
And then I was like,
right.
That'll do what I
really
what I didn't think, just because I happened to look in a spot on the board that I didn't look at because I was like, I'm never gonna, because like this was I didn't care about those because I forced myself to not give a shit about dice.
Right.
You did well.
It worked out.
Mm-hmm.
It worked out.
So clearly there are a bunch of different strategic paths that can be taken.
Oh, yeah.
And all of them are good except for the one I choose.
No, your strategy is good. You just had someone who was also equally competing.
My strategy is
actually, your strategy would have worked had I not had that buff of permanent victory points.
I'm just glad you think I have a strategy.
You would have won both times in votes.
I missed it.
First
one I missed it by 1,
and then the last one you missed it by 1 because you had 14 and I had 15.
Oh, okay.
So you also missed it just by 1.
Okay.
And I mean, even getting second, like, because actually what put him above by missing was because I didn't even think that you guys were gonna tie. Mm-hmm. So because I gave him that extra vote, that's what edged him out. I could have mathed it out and sat here and really gave a shit and be like, they're gonna tie. Oh, I think I won't let Zach. It's like, but I definitely am not going to take the time to do that.
Which wouldn't have hurt me other than it would have given Brett 8 points, but it still would have given me 8 points.
Yeah.
Right.
So at that point, it kind of came down to I want resources.
Right.
And some people might make that decision because it's like, okay, how many followers do you have? Okay, you're at 30. You're at 40. Yeah. Well, I don't want he's closest to me. If I'm in the lead, he's closest to being second
Yeah.
to beating me. So now I won't do that.
So that's why I did round 1. So because I was like, best I could do is 6 points. Seth is going to go points, and I'm going to go resources. So then I'll take the resource you give me, plus because I had 2 of them, but I didn't have any settlements really out. And I was like, I'm also going to then just get tons of resources for round 2 and try and make my play in round 2 at that point.
Yeah.
Solid.
My major negative, and this is a common negative for a bunch of games, there needed to be a sheet per each player on what the perks do.
Yes.
And what the outpost offers do.
Yep.
I hate when they cop out and they're like, it's in the back of the book. It's like, great. That's one resource for multiple people to have to start passing around, because if you want to make a decision on, because everything matters, you now have to, it's the Komet thing. Whenever Komet first came out, and it was like, can't take my turn because I don't know what perks are. I don't know what those do.
So not only that, so you have an entire back page of symbols. You have an entire couple pages of, and they do it really well where it's large, but you don't need the printing as large for what each of these perks do. Mm-hmm. You already have 2 of these. Give us a full sheet per player with everything on it.
Yeah.
On both sides, because you can do one side as one thing and the other side as another thing. Mm-hmm. And
because the player aids themselves are really good.
Right.
Yeah.
So just go as full. With 8x11s.
Yeah.
But they're all incomplete.
Right.
And then there's a third one for people to share.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that won't come up as often, so we don't need as much about it.
Right. It's more of just helping.
This could have easily been put on double-sided pages.
I agree. And I mean, I'll give them a little bit of slack because the iconography is relatively self-explanatory.
Right.
There's some that you could be like, well, clearly that just gives me 2 heavy soldiers.
Yeah.
Right.
This obviously says I get both when I gather.
Right.
But some of them aren't as clear, and
they're not self-explanatory. They're reminders. Once you understand, okay, now I remember what that is.
Right. So it's like it's definitely one on a few playthroughs. You're gonna obviously know what those icons mean and what it does. But I really hate that, especially when it comes to what I do on my turn. I need to understand what these do.
Right.
He's using the one sheet, so now I have to wait, and now this game draws out another 10, 20 minutes.
Right.
I gave first edition of Komet, that was a huge negative because people couldn't play because those tiles are so important, and those are 100% unique, and there's 40 of them.
Right.
So it's like, here's the one dinky, magazine sheet. It's like, great, okay, well, whenever you're done, I'll wait.
Right.
If only there was a way that you could photocopy a page.
I
and have didn't
pay $100+ to make their game for them.
I'm talking about them.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about me. I was like, because I know people
they can do it for less than a penny a page.
Yeah.
I know. I thought because some people are like, you can just print it out. It's like I know I'm not an idiot. I know it's a resource. Probably on Board Game Geek, it would cost me 50 cents to go print it off. It's the principle of the fact that they are not mega corporation, but they are a corporation who should have just done that.
Yeah, it's with all the other production expenses, it would be so little.
Right, especially if you're getting the deluxe, so every dinosaur is a mini.
Right.
Dual layer boards with shitty metal things that you can't grip.
One shitty metal thing.
Okay, we'll put it this way. It's not bad, but the way it's designed as actually a nice pin if you were not to have it in a dual sword before, because it's sloped the wrong way and it's smoothed over. Like they actually threw this into a proper machine to grind all the pieces off.
Yeah, they're like, it's gonna be so smooth to the touch. It's like, you know what? I'd rather have my fingers bleed so if I could pick up the damn thing.
In my mind.
And so it's sad because it's a high quality piece that just doesn't work.
What's
well.
also very strange to me, and I thought this whenever I was even organizing the whole thing. They have and I should have mentioned this in episode 1, but it actually didn't come up in episode 1 because you used every metal piece. But in episode 2, you have a cardboard breach token.
Right.
And then, I don't know what the hell these are for, maybe for solo or dissenters, but you have these cardboard heavy and light soldiers. It's like, why? I get maybe these, because I still don't know what the fuck they do. Why didn't they give us a metal breach token?
Yeah.
Like, it's just so weird to have these as upgrades and then be like, not that one.
Right.
It's just...
It'll never come up.
That one's so minor, though. It's just kind of weird.
Right.
But, I mean, it is very frustrating, especially in episode 2, when you have, what is it, 6, 5, so 8, no, God damn it, 30 options? Is that math?
Yes.
You have 30 perks to choose from.
Every one of them different.
And every single one of them different, and you
Thank
have...
God, it's the same for every player.
Right.
Right.
And so, yeah, thank God, that would be so annoying if it was truly different.
Episode 3. Everyone is a
Which is why
specialist
they
now.
put the player aid for each player individual,
Right.
where it's, your player character on the front for your player aid,
Yeah.
then it can all be individual. I don't care, it can be asymmetric.
Because in episode 1, each leader has a special player power.
Right.
I wouldn't like individual perk trees. Like imagine if TI, every single alien race had their own individual perk tree. Your games would be double as much as they are. They're already 6 plus hours.
It would be
now
longer,
it's 15 hours, and it's like, no. You would never teach it. You could never teach that game.
No.
Be like, hey, here's your homework. I'm not playing. Damn it. We needed your...
Well, I'll play with you, but go watch the
2-hour-long
training video.
right.
And
For
then
this
we'll play.
race alone.
And then we'll play.
Yeah, the beauty of and the how deep these games go is that we do have the same options. It's just in what order are we doing them then? Not... And don't get me wrong, I love individual player powers or uniqueness, asymmetrical stuff. I love that. But if everyone had 30 different shit...
And to put a little bit to perspective, I went incredibly heavy on putting out these cubes. I only got 19 of the 30 out.
That's not 19.
You
No,
have
I
11.
have 11.
I was like,
Not even
I'm like,
19.
how? I'm missing like 7 or 8.
Right. Sorry, I was doing the wrong... Yeah, so I have... I mean...
You only had 11 out
11.
of 30, and
So
you focused heavily on perks.
Right.
I only had 8.
Right.
5.
Yeah, so...
Which I think was kind of the opposite of last game. I had like 5. You had maybe
You might have had
11,
9.
but
I
not-
had the most
I had
perks.
around there.
Did you?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I went heavy on killing.
Which was interesting because I was looking at that because you were like pointing out the fact that you got perks. I knew you get one for here compared to last time, but you were getting more also from those cards, and they didn't pop this time as often.
Nope, they did not. I also like the fact that there are 2 different... Oh, there's 2 different in the patrols as well.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, I was also going to go outpost because I was planning on going camp heavy,
Right.
and I was like, oh, I'm going to need outpost to defend, but I needed to capture, and that's why I initially captured these, but then I was like, nah, because then I saw this. I'm like, oh, I'm already doing camps,
Right.
already doing outposts. Okay, well then I'm just going to ignore the watchtowers.
Right.
I could have sworn these gave you adjacent aid, but we couldn't find it.
I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So you couldn't find it.
Another major thing is that we never did. I think I got 1 of these, but if you go into getting attacked on camps, it is heavier, or in canyons is what I meant to say. It is harder to do so, but like
The rewards are better.
because it's like 3 points, 3 glowberries. This one's 3
Right.
points and a food. 2 story and 4 points. It only maxes 4 points, but you get multiples of
Right.
something. And even if you lose, it's like, oh, this loss is a valor and a glowberry versus,
Right.
oh, I lost in plains and it's a glowberry.
Right.
It's like, oh, that sucks. And now I'm losing points.
Right.
So that's another viable strategy is just go heavy into the canyons.
Right.
So there's a lot that goes into episode 2. But I'm so glad that with their model of doing episodes 1 and 2, that it's like, here's 2 completely different games, but they're still the same game. It's not like
Core
episode 1 is
mechanically,
this and
yeah.
episode 2 is something It's card hand management
Right.
and, and work, and something else. It's area control fighting each other. It's like, oh god, now we have to learn this whole new game. You still have to learn the game, but
There's less to learn once you play
you have
from
like
1
a
to 2.
foundation, yeah. Be like, oh, okay, like I know how the dice mechanic works. Now it's just how everything else fits within
Right.
that. I don't really have anything else. I have no more negatives. More observations that we've seen through multiple. If you let someone sweep assembly scoring, I don't think it's necessarily a guaranteed win, but it definitely makes other players have to fight a lot harder to try and outscore you.
Yeah.
I will say, actually, I don't think you can guarantee on that winning you the game. Like, if you do nothing else to get victory points, but let's just say you're going to max out at like 50 points. So if other people are being able to get victory points outside of that, and let's say you gained the 14 in Assembly Phase 1, but I had 20 by the time that came around, okay, yeah, you're still ahead of me, but you're not that much.
Yeah, I kind of wondered that because, so, like, even if you max out any of those officers, I don't know about the very end one over there, and kind of the chief here might be a little bit. I don't know that you're ever getting more than 12 points.
Well, so put it this way. I got 21 points from the final one. If I didn't take that from you, well, how many points would you have gotten for that?
6 instead of 3.
You only had 2 of your own dice out?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you had more.
No, just 2 of my own
So you would have gotten 6.
No, I had 3 of my dice, but I only have 5 settlements.
I see. That's right. So you would have gotten 6.
Yeah.
That thing gave you
10,
so 16. So
Right.
I'm only 5 points ahead.
Right. But what I'm saying is, but that means I have to control 2 different spouts and have everything built into it. So I'm not saying that you can just win the game by sweeping those.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that if you sweep those, I don't know how easy it is to unthrone someone.
Well, my argument is that you got 16 in Assembly Phase 3 on top of the points you got prior to that.
Right,
so it's
right.
like I think controlling officers
Is a viable strategy.
because it consistently gives you more points than just the assembly scoring is just one lump sum. But still, once again, it's 17 points in that Assembly Phase 2. So yeah, if one person sweeps it, it's very hard for someone to outscore that. But if everyone's aware of that, then it's like, oh, I won Assembly Phase 3, but you won 2 and you won 1, so now it's not as big of a sweep.
Right. I think if you can take 1 from a person, that it stops being as big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But if you let them take the top 3 in each one, I wonder if you are guaranteed to win at that point.
Yeah, because let's say what is that, 38? So 119. I would have had. Hold on, I can math it out. I'll just math it out on my phone. So I had 127 minus.
Well, if you do those 3 and nothing else, I don't think that that's a winning strategy.
No, I agree. It gets you 52 points.
But you can't not score points in other ways
Right,
by
that's
just
what I'm
achieving.
saying.
But
That's what I'm saying.
this actually is a good segue into something I was going to bring up. I wasn't going to bring it up, but it does tie in. So, for the record, if I didn't win Assembly Phase 2 and 3, I would have had 89 points.
Right.
What was your guys' final score?
78.
78
63.
and 63. So it's a lot closer, on top of the fact that one of you would have won one
Right.
and one would have won the other.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. If you can stop someone from getting 1 of those, I think it stops me from they just kind of are probably going to win the game.
Yeah.
If you sweep it, you've probably won the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose 1 of those, I think everybody is in the game.
Yeah. But what this does, and this is something that's pretty fascinating, I think we kind of touched on that a little bit, but more about when we were talking about outposts. What that does, if someone has won Assembly Phase 1 and 2, then that kind of means, oh, other people need to start utilizing these areas to force them to either I need to counterattack or now I'm losing points.
Right.
So what happens is, like, to kind of counteract that, it's like you go here, I lose because it's in the canyon, so it's like, oh, well, that's a 5. I don't have any valor, so I'm going to lose it. Not only do more dinosaurs come out that would have brought in a raptor and a shield head, and then a shield head and a raptor.
Right.
So then, if I can't counterattack, then that's 4 points loss on my end.
Right.
And then you do it, then Brett comes in, counters attack. And so then it's like, oh, we're causing him to lose points, and we're gaining points in the process.
Right.
So I'm not saying that's not a hard counter to that.
It's a possibility of a counter. No, I agree. So, like, you're not going to just win off those points. You're going to get other points by taking those.
Mm-hmm.
But I do wonder if you sweep, like, if it happens again, a third game where someone sweeps it and they win.
Yeah.
Then I'm probably going to say, if you sweep it, you probably have won the
probably
game.
guaranteed
Well,
it.
because you're also doing other things
Right.
Yeah.
at the same time.
You're guaranteed to get points somewhere else. Like, it's not like, oh, I can only get votes and get those points.
Right.
No, even getting votes probably is giving you points somewhere else.
Somebody gets all the votes, somebody else gets all the officers, and then somebody else does all of the killing and capturing.
Right. Well, because the assembly scoring less...
And that's
more,
cooperation.
Well, it's more so in episode 2 than episode 1, I feel. But if you're doing really well in votes, then it kind of becomes king... It's not king-making. It's kind of like, oh, we need to now team up on him. So we need to start using his dice, or taking all the neutrals out, so he's going to have to start. So people start to conspire against one another, which thematically would probably make sense. Oh, hey, that leader is getting all the votes. Fuck him. Hey, let's see when I do something. So then it's like, okay, well now the 21 points I got, there's no neutrals for me. I already used my one die. I can't change anything else. Well, that's 2 points lost. That's 2 point loss. That's 2 point loss. Okay, that's 6. Knocks me down to 15 that I gained. Oh, and they keep using the spot I'm at. I have no soldiers. I can't attack them. Right. So some people might like that. That's not my favorite way to play competitive games. I don't like to team up on someone unless the game kind of calls for it, like if it's negotiation or something, like Twilight Imperium or Cosmic Encounter. These games, I never feel like it's justified to be like, oh, now I need to work with you to knock that person down. Yeah. But it is there. There are ways to probably hinder the amount of points you get from assembly scoring. Sure. But at the same time, that causes you guys to do other things you don't want to do.
Right.
And this is only a 3-player dynamic. It'll all be
true
with 4 or 2.
Yeah, 2. I never want to play this game with 4 for sure. It's just one other person competing for assembly scoring and control.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely wanted to bring up the fact of like utilizing the different areas, forcing other people. It's more of a negative thing of like, because we mentioned in episode 1, oh man, using your dice, yeah, you already have control here. Okay, yeah, I'll take the 2 hit and go to that spot because now you can't use your die to steal my control.
Right.
But they have another aspect of, there's no risk for me to go use that badass outpost location.
Right.
You're going to be the one getting attacked. And it's like, shit.
Right.
That sucks. So, but, oh, hey, you defended it. Okay, great. I just gave you, 2 points.
Yeah, nobody didn't defeat all the dinosaurs this time.
We barely touched them. In fact, I think I captured 1 from over here, and the other 2 I got from, I think, a perk or a...
I captured 1 dinosaur in the entire fight.
That's so funny. I might have captured 2 at one point just by attacking them, but then my trampler let me capture 1.
Yeah.
And that's all I did. This game's so good. Both episodes are so solid. So would you say, now that we've played both episodes, like that this is something worth getting considering the fact that you have to get them as a bundle? Like, you can't just get episode 2 or just episode 1. If you're getting Perseverance, you have to basically get it as both. Because for me, I love episode 1 and 2, so this is more of like a breath of relief where it's like, whoo, episode 2 doesn't suck.
Right. So for me, it's probably almost the opposite. I didn't enjoy episode 1 that well. I ranked it high because I thought it was still a good game. And so I don't know that I would buy this just for myself for episode 2. Because I would play episode 1, again, if somebody really wanted to, I would bring out episode 2.
That was going to be my next question, was after playing episode 2, because we like it more, it's like, yeah, out of these 2, if I had to pick one, I would play episode 2 before I went back to episode 1.
So I'm probably going to be in the camp of, I would just buy episode 2 by itself.
Yeah. Yeah, Brett, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my counter thought to that is, would you have thought the same if you just played episode 2 first and learned all of the mechanics and complexity right up front?
Yeah, if it was reversed, this was episode 1.
Yeah. Episode 1 was great. Episode 2, wow, that's better.
Yeah.
So, but was it the stair step that needed to really appreciate it, or would this have been overwhelming for too many times?
It might have been, actually. Episode 2 is because we didn't have to worry about the nuance, and we got to figure out all the cool things about dice manipulation and area control for voting and stuff like that. So all the new different things of episode 2 is that much more enhanced because we also aren't bogged down. So I think in that way, their design is even that much greater because episode 1 is so good, and episode 2, raises the bar because of those building blocks that episode 1 brought.
Right. So to me, it's episode 1 is the training wheels, and episode 2 is the game that I'm going to play.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I could see if I didn't play episode 1, it might have just taken me an extra game to see some of the nuances in episode 2.
Yeah.
Because episode 1, like we played this the first time, it would have just been learning as much as I could. Episode 2, okay, like the first game of this, I saw a strategy. It probably wasn't going to be till the third game, if this was the only one that I played, that I saw, okay, this is the strategy I really want to try to go for points this way.
Right. Well, we saw that in episode 1 too, because it was
Right.
like, oh man, if we try this. So both games have their let's play it again because I want to try a different thing. Episode 2 just has more of that.
Right.
But that is interesting because it's like, let's say these were swapped. Let's say
Yeah.
this was episode 1, and then we went to, I mean, thematically it makes no sense. But let's just say episode, hey, we did have walls that got destroyed. Now we're defending our home,
Right.
instead of trying to settle. I don't know. I could see me being like, oh my god, this is a whole different game, and now we're defending against these, and now we're utilizing our soldiers in a different way. So, for me, they both go hand in hand. Which is narratively kind of what they were going for anyway.
Right. So for me, because I didn't enjoy episode 1 as much, it might have been even more of a letdown.
Oh, really?
Like, this might kind of elevate level, number 1 better, because, like, wow, number 2 is really good.
Yeah. I will say, this is not necessarily a complaint, but more of maybe an observation. Episode 1, I feel like, is more of a complete game. It feels like you're being attacked. It's not necessarily one note, but you utilize, I guess in terms of board, you utilize the whole board in
Yes.
episode 1.
Yep.
It's this to do this.
Right.
Episode 2 doesn't have that.
Nope.
It's not this to do this, because this is its own thing. You can
Right.
do your own thing here.
They're two separate.
And so some people might not like that because it's like, well, I'm playing a game and I didn't even get to touch any of that. And it's like, well, that's a strategy you have to now go for.
Right.
And it's like, oh. But in episode 1, it's like, oh man, I got to do this stuff because it allowed me to get more soldiers to fight. It
Right.
allowed me to place more walls. It allowed me to do this. So episode
Yeah.
2 for a lot of people might be like, this is too much. Episode
Right.
1 was just the right amount. Like episode 1 to
Or
me.
we'll play one like 20 or 30 times. Now we're kind of sick of it. What else is there?
Yeah.
there's-
Great. There's episode 2, and now
In the same box.
Just how lucky.
Right.
Yeah. For me, if I'm comparing it to their other games, episode 1 is kind of in the same vein as Tricarion, where it's like, this is a good, solid amount of stuff to do.
Right.
Like, everything you do goes into performing a stage of magic. Anachrony is episode 2, where it's like, oh man, I can do my own settlement building, I can do this whole thing, I
Right.
could, but Anachrony still feels a little bit more grounded. I could see people, well, I don't know, what does this do for me? So once again, it's very interesting that they chose to release 2 episodes in one box.
And that they're doing that again.
And they're doing it again for episodes 3 and 4.
Right.
So I remember Brett was like, oh, well, episode 3 is next. And I'm like, nope, you gotta get them both.
Yep.
Interesting.
Right? I mean, I'm gonna get it because I trust Mindclash as a company. I trust these designers.
Yeah.
And so
And it's probably. I wonder if they just did some math projections on profit margins versus
maybe
cost of
yeah,
productions.
look at the
Because-
shipping crisis and they're like, ugh,
That
we
could be.
were gonna release these separate.
I mean, this could be 3 separate boxes.
Yeah.
Episode 1, Episode 2, and what's common to both.
Yeah.
You have to get 2 of them to play a game, but you can pick what you want. Mm-hmm. Pay a little less, but then the production costs are up. It creates confusion.
And then but also
And reluctance.
you run the risk of, okay, I bought this game.
This way they got people hooked into 2 different games. You like one, you like the other.
Yeah.
You like them both.
Yeah.
Once you have them, then they could do that again.
Right. Yeah, this is one for me. It's lucky because it's like I loved episode 1 and then I love episode 2. So great, it's bang for my buck.
Right.
But kind of like if you owned it and you're like, episode 1's pretty good, I'll play it. Then episode 2 and you're like, oh, this is way better. I don't
Right.
want to play episode 1
Or I'll use
again.
it to teach people how to play the real game.
Right.
Right.
But then you just kind of have stuff.
Yeah.
You have episode 1 stuff and
Right.
you never
Right
want
here
to
in the
play.
tray.
Right.
Right.
Not much, but
It's organized luckily in such a way that you don't have to be like, okay, well, let me pull all this stuff out because it goes into episode. It's like, nope, here's my episode 2 stuff.
Yep.
And I don't even have to worry about episode 1.
Right.
Narratively, you would play episode 1 because I will say, even though there's not like story to it, I still think that the little snippet they have at the beginning does enough.
No,
does enough, especially if you play episode 1, then you kind of have story
because
grounding.
Again, like I'll say, even the artwork, it's great.
It is.
But if you look at episode 1's board, this is a complete ship. There's no wall, and part of episode 1 is basically you're building the wall is kind of the plan. And the snippet says we took stuff from the ship to build the wall, and now the ship is not a complete ship anymore.
Right.
So again, even just that little snippet with the art on top of it makes it feel like a story, and it's a story that you are telling through the play itself.
Right. It's like, oh, hey, look at the wall that I built because we played episode 1 together. Well, I won, and look at what I did.
Right.
And it's like whatever, but yeah.
It's our wall now.
Yeah, we're still all working together, but not.
But we're going to let you go out and explore that jungle while we stay back.
Go, leader! Like, can you guys give me a weapon?
Hey,
nah,
as
we
long as he
built the
comes
wall.
back with those, dinosaurs, I mean, realistically, that's why you get the votes, right?
Right, yeah, it's like...
Where are the ice giants, people? Where are the ice giants?
So I like that it's narratively through the actual mechanics versus... Okay, well, hey, hold on, let me pull out this book, let me pull out the app, and don't get me wrong, I love games like that, but it's neat. It's just a different way. So, when getting the game, you do have to run that risk of, okay, well, I watched the run-through for episode 2, that looks really fun. Episode 1 kind of sucks. Is this worth buying just for one episode? I say yes. I actually like episode 2 quite a bit. And they don't feel like halves of a game.
Right.
It's like, yeah, get episode 2. Like, yeah, you have episode 1 stuff, but it's there. And it's good. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you guys give episode 2?
9.
9?
Yep.
I think you gave episode 1 an 8.
Yep.
Yeah. I was trying to remember. I think Brett also gave it an 8.
I think I did too.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with 8.
Stick with
Again,
8.
this is my perspective.
Yep.
But I do see and appreciate the additional level.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to give episode 2 a 10. Like, 1, I give episode 1 a 9.
Yeah.
And then episode 2 is that much better.
Right.
Like, I think they're both fantastic for completely different reasons.
Yep.
And my only complaint is something that I complain about for most games. It's no longer really a point drop. It's just more a point up if a company did do it. It's just like, oh my god, they actually thought about the players, and they gave individual player sheets, you know, for everyone. But yeah, there's just some, for both of these, it's just like, oh, let's play it again because I want to try this strategy now. Let's see how that works. And a lot of these kinds of games don't do that. Usually there's a meta. And it's like, well, that won me the game, and I don't see any reason to not play that way again.
Right.
And here it's like, well, that won me the game, but I want to try this now.
Right.
So, episode 2 is going to get high marks from all of us. And you guys got anything else?
Nope.
Well, sweet.
Well done.
So that's our thoughts on episode 2 for Perseverance. Let us know what you think of the episode in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.